As far as Shedeur goes, here's the only thing I would say about Shedeur. I mean, I know exactly how bad Colorado was before they all got there. And everyone wants to talk about Dion. And yes, that's a huge catalyst. There's no doubt. And he built that roster. And yes, there was an influx of talent. But man, like the biggest difference was that they finally had a quarterback. And knowing that and being close to that and seeing how high he raised the level of all the boats in the harbor, if you will, to me was pretty special. And then there's this combination of surgeon and magician with Shedeur. And you're right about some of the strength issues. And I think that there are times when he's retreating more than I would like to see him retreat. But you get these moments when everything is right that he is surgical. And I mean, like on time, on target, he's very accurate. And then you get these times when everything breaks down and he turns into a magician and he can create time in order to make a play down the field. So those are the things that I would say about Shedeur.
Yeah, and I to me, the two things that you can hang your hat on, and I don't know that you'd find much argument on, are, and I've said it like this: you can have the debate about Shedeur, you can talk about this, that, or that. You can't question his toughness. Number one, that's you're just not allowed to. That you can't watch that tape and question that guy's toughness. He did not wilt after getting hit like crazy. Some of it, even his own fault at times, holding the ball, which we'll get to that in a minute. But toughness, unquestionable. The other thing is when things are clean and he's got sight lines, he is incredibly accurate. He can put the ball in a mailbox. Like he has got pinpoint accuracy when things are there for him. So, to me, the arm strength thing is part of it, just, driving the ball outside. And even at the pro day, they didn't really drive it outside the numbers.
No.
And he throws a beautiful in cut. That's like, it's one of the best throws that he makes. But that was kind of one of them. And then I think, to me, and not to crush the Big 12, but the caliber of athlete that he was able to escape and elude in some of those games. I saw it with Caleb. I mean, even Caleb was playing to me at that conference at that time, which Shedeur was in the year before. There was more quality of athlete there, and Caleb couldn't do those exact things when he got to the NFL, and Caleb is a much better athlete. So I don't think that's going to be a huge part of his game. I think it's going to be more of, I think the magician's maybe going to be on the sideline, and I think the surgeon's going to need a raise. That to me is what his style is going to be at the next level.
Well, and that's, my thing always when it comes to quarterback play, when I'm trying to project, is like, can you be on time and on target?
Yeah.
And there were times when he was, and then there were times when he wasn't. Love your thoughts on Jaxson Dart. Do we think during this process that he could sneak into the back end of the first round? Does it depend on where Shedeur goes, how high, or maybe where he slips, depending on if he gets selected in the top 5 or 10 or 15?
Yeah. Look, we're getting close, Joel. When you get close, there's so much conflicting information that's flying around when you talk to folks. I've talked to people who think that when it's all said and done, we might only have one quarterback go in the first round. You talk to other people and they say we're going to have 3 go in the top 10, especially with the Derek Carr information that's now out there about his shoulder issues that he's having in New Orleans, holding the 9th overall pick.
That's right. And all of a sudden now you would assume that New Orleans has a quarterback need.
Correct. So unless they might be on the Spencer Rattler train, man, they might be taking that thing and going for a spin on that. We'll see. But when I get asked this question, I always want to say, can I tell you after the Giants pick?
That's a good
How many quarterbacks are going to go? Where are they going? Because the Giants feel to me like the Shedeur team. And if for some reason the Giants, and you could make a strong case of why they, should take a quarterback because of the need they have at that position, you can also make a case that there's 2 elite players in this draft, and they have a chance to get one of them between Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. And then if that happens, now I think Jaxson Dart gets interesting because I think the Giants are going to come away with a quarterback with one of their first 2 picks. I think Cleveland is going to come away with a quarterback with their 2nd pick. I don't think they're doing it with their first one. So that's
a perfect Dart landing spot if Shedeur gets taken up front.
Yeah, if the Giants don't take Shedeur, and then Shedeur were to go to New Orleans or he even goes to Pittsburgh or wherever he goes later on in the draft, my antenna would be up for the Giants and Jaxson Dart. So, I mean, that I would keep an eye on that. I do think it's a coin flip of whether Jaxson Dart goes in the first round. But, the things I like about him, you talk about him as a player, and I love to get your thoughts on it as well. But I made the comparison, which was a little unorthodox, but it reminded me of Jalen Hurts' journey. Not necessarily the identical, comp as a player, but guys that got better each and every year, guys who, when you talk to folks around them, they talk about their competitiveness, their toughness, their likability. Teammates love being around them, and that was at both places, at SC and at Ole Miss. To me, I thought his best football still in front of him, with the trend line kind of heading in the positive direction. You know, he doesn't have like elite arm strength, but it's good. He's not an elite athlete, but he's a good athlete who ran a bunch in the SEC and got a bunch of production there. I'm kind of buying the kid, kind of buying the competitive kid, and buying the trend line. Jalen Hurts, I was there for his first training camp, Joel, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, like, this guy was not a finished product when the Eagles selected him in the second round, but the trend line was headed in the right direction, and the guy just worked his butt off and made it kind of happen. So that's why I saw that comparison with those guys.
So funny, because you thought Jalen Hurts. Do you know what I thought of? Because it was more of a college comp through the growth. Jalen has grown since you saw him in that first training camp until now, right? Obviously, Super Bowl champion. When I see Jaxson Dart, I see, again, not a direct player comparison, but a trend line through college similar to kind of a Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Where, it's kind of like there's flashes early, and yet every year you get a little bit better and you get a little bit better. And then towards the end, and Bo got to play forever, right? What did he start? I think it was 61 or 62 games. And by the end, you're like, okay, like I can see this. That's a similar feeling that I have with Jaxson Dart. Here's a one concern that I would have is with Bo, I could project into, and specifically, and I did, and we talked about this, Sean Payton's offense, right? Because I'm like, yep, this is what he was kind of asked to do at Oregon, and you can project that forward. I struggle with Lane's offense. Not that it's not a quality offense. It's a great college offense, but there are so many wide open throws or pre-snap decision throws. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Like you watch this tape and you're like, scripted winners, man, and they are all over the place, which is why Lane can be on the sideline raising his hands, because it's like everyone knows where the ball is going, and there's not a ton of post-snap, got to be a dog in the pocket, control the game, and you've got five guys, where's the ball going? And so that would be my only concern with Jaxson, because I agree with you on the trend line. I do think he's going to succeed. I think he's going to get taken at worst in the top, I would say, 40 picks in the draft. And at that point, it's about location and fit.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with anything you just said. And, the challenge, I would put it back to you is, and I don't know if I'm sure we've talked about this. I know I've talked about it with Kurt Warner, and we'll have the conversation most likely on the air when the draft gets going. But outside of Joe Burrow, man, it's hard to go through the Rolodex of players that in college you saw work deeply into progressions. Like, that's just, you see it every week, Joe. Like, it's just really not much of the college game anymore.
It's true.
Bo Nix, the accuracy was off the charts, but it was catch, rock, throw. The whole time there, to the point where it's like, gosh, okay, well, can he operate in the middle of the field, because it's all quick hitters and then some schemed winners down the field and over the top. It's never been harder to project guys to the next level if you're just going to look at the system and the scheme. Because
who tried to read it out a lot?
Who's that?
Colorado.
Yeah.
Which didn't work out a lot for their offensive.
Yeah. Holden, sack.
Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.